Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Live Magic Q&A. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you here. This is the free Live Magic Q&A tea party with Madam Pamita, that's me, that meets up here every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We record this as a live free Zoom meeting every single Sunday and then post the recording later on YouTube. So if you're seeing this on YouTube and you're like going, what, how do I get in? What do I do? It's very, very easy to join us for the live sessions. All you have to do is go to spellsquad.com, spellsquad.com, and sign up, and you will get the link to be able to join us here live in our Zoom session, ask questions, meet my guests. It's a really, really fun time, something fun to do every Sunday, and a way for us to get together during this pandemic when we can't really see each other face to face. This is the next best thing. So I love that we're able to do this. In case you've stumbled on this and you don't know who I am, you're like, who's this lady with the Vishivanka on? I'm Madam Pamita. You can find me mostly on Parlor of Wonders. That's my website, parlorofwonders.com. Parlor spelled P-A-R-L-O-U-R of wonders.com. You can also find me on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Madam Pamita. Instagram, Madam Pamita. Although, news alert, there was an imposter discovered yesterday pretending to be me. No, Madam Pamita 3 is not me on Instagram. It's somebody pretending to be me. We're trying to report it and get it taken down. But Madam Pamita is me on Instagram. I'm also an author. I've written a book called Madam Pamita's Magical Tarot, and I have a new book coming out in October called The Book of Candle Magic, which I hope you guys will pre-order because those pre-orders are very, very, very helpful. So go ahead and look for it on your usual places or order it from your local bookshop. That always is very, very helpful both to the bookshop and to the publisher and to me. Let's see what else we have to say. Yeah, I guess that's it about me. Oh, if you go to parlorofwonders.com, you'll find a bunch of free resources, including me. You'll find a bunch of free resources, magical things that you can buy, lots of free educational materials, and all kinds of good things. So head over to parlorofwonders.com to find me. So this week, my guest is Shamanic Practitioner Christa Lynn. So I'm going to read you the bio, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about our story. So Christa is a Shamanic Practitioner and Teacher. She's a woman of many talents. She's also a Reiki Master, Crystal Healing Practitioner and Teacher. She's got a crystal class coming up, and I saw that. She's a certified BodyTalk Practitioner and a Chartered Herbalist. So she has a well-earned reputation, and I will say it is well-earned, as an inspiring, gifted, and compassionate healer and teacher, 100%. Over the past 15 years, she's served people in Vancouver, Canada, which is where she's located, and all over the world virtually, which is what we're all doing right now. She has experience in other shamanic healing practices of Slavic folk healing, which is how we connected, and has studied with many renowned teachers across the globe. She brings these valuable skills to her healing practice in the classes that she teaches. She's always expanding her knowledge of the healing arts with the intention of serving her clients and her students in the most powerful way possible. You're an amazing teacher, by the way. So from teacher to teacher, I'll say you are an amazing teacher. She offers healing sessions online through video conferencing and online classes in shamanism, crystal healing, and more. And you can find her at christalynn.ca or shamanicspirit.ca, and Christa is spelled CHRISTALYNN if you're listening to this. And for you guys that are in the clubhouse, I'm going to put those two in the chat so that you can see them and you can click on them. All right, so let me put those two links in. And those are the places that you can find her. So welcome, Christa. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to be with you, Madame Pamita, and everyone who's joining and watching.
Oh my gosh, this is so much fun. Let me tell you something. I'm going to tell a little bit about the story about how I came to you. So I'm working on I actually have a blog called Baba Yaga's Cottage, which I am working on, which is about Slavic magical practices. And I'm doing a ton of research for a new book that I'm working on right now, coming up about Slavic magic, because I am half Ukrainian. So I'm half Celtic. That's my dad's side, and my mom's side is Ukrainian. So my mom was first generation Ukrainian. Her parents came from Ukraine. And so when I was growing up, my mom was very magical with me. She didn't ever she bought me my first tarot deck. We would do like little magical practices. And she would tell me stories about my grandmother. My grandmother had passed away long, long before. And so these stories that she would tell me, she would say things like, you know, that my grandmother would do things like hold a bowl of water over someone's head and pour wax into it. And that was some kind of healing, fortune telling thing. And she would describe these things to me, but there wasn't a lot of information because my grandmother never taught my mom these things. My mom just saw them. And so as I was starting to do the research for this book, I got I feel like my spirits, my ancestor spirits were calling me to do this book, calling me to share this information. Now that I'm a Baba, you know, that I'm a grandmother, not a grandmother literally, but I'm, you know, I'm postmenopausal. I'm considered to be that crone Baba energy, right? And I feel like that when that happened, that's when they started calling to me and saying, now it's your turn to take on this mantle and to start to do this work and to do this Vidma work, or the witch, the Ukrainian witch work, right? So I started doing all this research. Well, in my research, I came across a couple of things, and I started reading about Mulfarkas and Mulfars, which are the Hutzul shamans, right? The Hutzuls are in the Carpathian Mountains. They're really up high. And so as being in that isolated area, they're a little more traditional. Like they're not, you know, Kiev is going to be super modern, but if you go up into the mountains, people are a little more, you know, country, right? So in reading about Mulfars and Mulfarkas, I started looking at Slavic shamanism and Ukrainian shamanism, and my guides led me to Christa. And I found her online and I said, oh, this is really great. I want to find out more. I want to do a session with her. Well, it just opened up this beautiful floodgate of all this amazing learning. The classes I've taken with you have been amazing. The sessions that we've done together, that we continue to do together are so profoundly transformative and powerful that it has caused me as the Vidma, the witch, to be very interested in shamanic practices, which I was kind of always looking at from, you know, kind of an external thing, like, wow, that's cool, but didn't really feel like a super calling to learn that practice or do that practice. So I had credit you, Christa, with all of your amazing talent and knowledge and work that is like made me go, this is amazing, amazing. I would say amazing magic that is happening when we do this work together. So that's how my interpretation of how we met and how we got together, and how the path of how we got together, which was so magical and synchronicities. To me, it's all synchronicities, you know, how we came together. So that's your introduction. So I want to ask you a question about your own shamanic practice. Well, first let's talk about shamanism in general. What is shamanism? And if you want to explain a little bit more of that to everyone who this may be something new for them. So.
Sure, I would love to do that. So shamanism is one of the oldest spiritual practices and healing practices known to humankind. When we look at the archaeological record, archaeologists so far to date have tracked shamanism back 40,000 years, and there has been some recent studies where they have now traced that back to 100,000 years. And what I find so amazing is that, you know, it's this ancient practice that we've had, but it's still alive today in traditional cultures today, and even in modern cultures, which is absolutely amazing. Now, in traditional shamanic cultures, the shamans would be the medicine people of the tribe, of the community, and they would perform many different functions. So they would perform healing sessions for people who were ill. So that would include physical illness, emotional illness, mental illness, and maybe some spiritual concerns going on as well. But they would also perform beautiful healing ceremonies to welcome babies into the world. They would also do marriage ceremonies, you know, at the time of marriage. Even when children are passing from childhood into adulthood, they would do beautiful healing ceremonies to mark that transition. And they would also do beautiful ceremonies at the time of someone's death and passing to help them into the afterlife and help their soul transition to the afterlife. But they would also do ceremonies for crops, so planting crops when crops were going to be planted to ensure a good harvest, and at the time of harvesting, honoring the plants and doing beautiful ceremonies to harvest the crops. And also they would be the diviners and mystics of the community as well. So if there were issues in the community or issues in individuals in the community in their personal life, they had an issue or a question that they would need answered, they would come to the shaman and present their question, and the shaman would take that question and provide an answer and wisdom on certain divination practices that they would have. They were also the mystics, the storytellers of the community as well. So they would fill many different roles, and there were many different types of healing work that they could do. And so the shamans believe that when they look at illness, whether it's, physical illness, emotional illness, or mental illness of some sort, they wouldn't just look at the symptoms of what was presenting, so headaches, knee pain, digestion problems, depression, anxiety, but they would look at the spiritual causes, the energetic causes of that illness. They would look at it as what is out of balance for this person that we need to correct and bring back into balance. So that is the area that they would work on. And when they would restore that balance, that would allow for the conditions of healing to occur so that the body could initiate its healing mechanisms to heal and recover from physical illness, or also from emotional illnesses, depression, grief, anger, resentment, anxiety. So the shamans had many beautiful healing practices that they would do. And the shamans also believed that when we lived our life disconnected from the cycles of nature, the rhythms of nature, that we could become ill, because everything is connected. It's like we're connected to the earth, we're connected to each other, we're connected to nature. And if we live out of balance for that, then illness could set in, especially depression, chronic fatigue, immune system problems, etc. So they're always looking at how we can restore balance. What is out of balance that created this condition, and how do we restore balance? So that's where the shamans would work.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And can I just throw one thing in here about your work? One of the things, we always work on something different when we have our sessions, but it is powerful, the work that you do, because I have come from a place of having extreme anxiety around the pandemic. I already had issues of anxiety, but it really got out of control with the pandemic, where I was having panic attacks. And since our session where we worked on this, I have felt even keel with no intervention, no medication, nothing going on, just feeling that has been released because of the session that we did. So this is like an example that I'm going to share of my own personal story of why this stuff is amazing and it works. So, okay. Sorry to interrupt.
That's great. I love that. And I love hearing your experience with that too. It's quite powerful. And how shamans would work is that to do the healing work that they would do if an individual came to them suffering in some way with physical illness or emotional, the shaman would work with a very specific rhythmic percussive sound played on a percussive instrument of some sort. So either a drum or a rattle or click sticks or bells. And the rhythm of that is a very specific rhythm that would alter the consciousness of the shaman to go into a higher state of consciousness, where they would access the spiritual realms and access their compassionate helping spirits. And shamans do work with compassionate helping spirits of the highest loving nature to work with them to effect healing for the person who is in need. So the rhythm is what helps to alter the consciousness, the brain waves, going from beta dropping into alpha, dropping into theta, where they can then journey with their consciousness into the spiritual realms, connect to the helping spirits, and present on behalf, hey, I have this client, John, he is going through these types of symptoms, this is what's going on in his life. And then there would be a little diagnostic to see what is out of balance for that client, in this case John, to see what needs to be corrected and what needs to be brought back into balance. So in shamanic terms, a person who is suffering, they could be suffering from a few different things. They could be suffering from a loss of power. And if someone has a loss of power, they have lost some vital essence, where when we lose vital essence, then we're more susceptible to becoming ill or taking on intrusive energies that could get stuck in the body or an energy system and then create some illness. So I would love to talk about this in a little bit more detail of how that can happen. So, for instance, there's a very special healing technique that shamans can do, which is called soul retrieval work. So the premise here is that we have our physical body, we have our soul that inhabits our body, and we have all of this beautiful spiritual essence that nourishes our soul, and that's what gives us vitality. So when someone has a lot of vital energy and they have that sparkle in their eyes, we could say that, they're standing in their own power, they've got a lot of that vital essence. But sometimes we can lose that vital essence, and we can lose it in a variety of ways. So what can happen is anytime we suffer a trauma, a stressful event, an illness, an accident, a surgery, a shock or a fright, so you could be crossing the road and a car nearly misses you and you're like, like this, you have that shock and fright, you could lose some soul essence. In times of abuse as well, we can lose soul essence. Sometimes too, if we're dealing with, hostile people, we might try to give some of our essence to them to try to keep the peace, or they might, tug on our essence and try to take it from us, which could happen as well. Or even if we move countries or cities and we relocate, we might leave a piece of our essence behind in hopes that we go back there someday. And especially if we have family or friends or loved ones that we really care about, we might leave a piece of ourselves behind. And we can also term that as homesickness. That's a version of soul loss. It's like being homesick, or you travel somewhere that you really love, you might leave a piece behind to come back. Or if you have a loved one that is suffering in some way, they're going through some stressful event in their life, maybe we try to donate some of our essence to them to help uplift them. But when we're missing that vital essence, some symptoms can result. So a tendency towards anxiety can happen, a tendency towards depression, sometimes sleep disturbances, a lack of passion and inspiration. It's like you're just going through the motions of life. It's like you get up, you get ready, you go to work, you take care of the kids, or other family members, you cook, you clean, you go to bed, and you do it all again tomorrow. But you're doing it without that joyful energy. Also, a lack of creativity can happen as well. And also, when we are losing soul essence, it essentially creates a hole. We're going to want to fill it with something. And this is when addictions can occur. So that could be food, that could be shopping, it could be, alcohol, cigarettes, etc. We try to fill that hole. And when we lose enough essence, then we can also have immune problems. So immune deficiency problems can happen. We can also then, become ill. And illness, physical illness could set in as well. So it's very important that we retrieve this soul essence. Now, in a good situation, when we go through a stressful event, part of our soul essence will break off from us, which is actually a protective mechanism to help us endure the stressful event, illness, accident, surgery, trauma. And then once the event is over, in a good situation, that soul essence comes back, we heal, we move forward, and that's great. But sometimes if we're under a lot of stress, that soul essence doesn't come back. So then it's the job of the shamanic practitioner to go in and retrieve it. And also when that is given back to the person, they're filled with their vital essence, the body can heal and come back into balance as a result of that as well. But we can also lose soul essence when we lose a loved one, a death of a loved one or a pet or a relationship breakup. That can also cause some soul loss there as well. Now, when we are missing soul loss, it essentially creates a hole. So it's going to be to be filled with something. So that could lead to an addiction in some cases. But also when we have an energetic hole like that, we can be susceptible to take on an intrusive energy. Okay, so an intrusive energy can be different things. That could include our own emotions that could get stuck in the body. So anger, resentment, fear, worry, sadness, grief, okay? And then we're human, we're gonna have emotions, that's normal, but then it begins to linger and fester, and that energy can attach to organs, endocrine glands, joints, tissues, and over time, if it's not released, it can lead to illness. This is the belief of the shamans. But also, if we have that type of soul essence loss, we have a hole, we could absorb those energies, emotions, stress states from other people or places. So that would be an intrusive energy. It also makes us more susceptible to psychic attacks. So if someone is, unconsciously sending out that energy, let's say through jealousy or something like that, the person could take it on. Or also, if it is more of a deliberate psychic attack, there's other ways of that. The other person can take that on because they don't have that level of protection, that immunity that they normally would have to those kinds of energies. So then, in that case, the shaman would perform an extraction to extract those harmful energies, to clear it out, and that would also be followed up usually with soul retrieval to bring back that essence, to fill the person up with their vital energy and restoring that good protection to them in that way. And when we have an intrusive energy, that can also lead to a pain, tension, or discomfort in that area of the body where the intrusion is located. And if it's emotional, it will feed us more of those emotions. So a little bit of worry is going to morph into anxiety. A little bit of irritation, frustration is going to morph into bigger anger or resentment. A little bit of sadness is going to creep in, and then it can morph into depression. So you get the idea. So the shamans would remove that energy and restore balance, restore harmony, and most often do a soul retrieval to bring that energy back.
Oh my gosh. And it is such an amazing experience having a soul retrieval, extraction soul retrieval session with you. It's like this, it's 90 minutes, right? 90 minutes that you're working on someone, but it feels like, in my experience, it feels like it's 15 minutes, it goes by very, very quickly. And afterwards you explain, is it all right if I talk about a little bit in general terms? You explain when you're on the soul journey, what happened when you were on that journey, so that the person can conceptualize. And I think there's an integration that happens from hearing about that journey and what you found, what you did, and so on, even in addition to the actual work, that the person, the receiver of that work, gets to understand what you were doing after. It's almost like, I want to say it's almost like a surgery in some way. Not that it's traumatic like surgery, but in the sense of like a doctor could have a surgery and say, oh, well, when I was in there, I saw that this needed fixing and I fixed it in there and I did that and I did that. But you're talking about things on the spirit realm and working in the spirit realm. And it's such a beautiful thing. And I love hearing the journeys that you have and all of that. It's so beautiful.
So how about I give some examples of
that would be great.
That in action, just to kind of sum it up of like how that is. So for instance, I'll tell a little bit of some case studies of sessions I've done for others. So I had this woman who had a job, liked her job, but there was a new job in a different department of her company that she wanted to apply for. It's like, oh, this would be the next level up. I want to apply for that. So she did. And then another co-worker who she had a little bit of conflict with also applied for that job. And when she applied for it, my client, she all of a sudden started getting headaches and lower back pain and a hip pain on one side. And then she just couldn't shake it. No matter what she did, it was like setting in. She couldn't, get rid of it. Tried some different things. And then she thought, okay, I'll do a shamanic session. So what came up in that session when I presented that body pain to my helping spirits, they showed me that she was holding on to an intrusive energy that got stuck in the body from this coworker of sending her this, anger, this jealousy, and also some hateful energy that got stuck in her body. So we did all of this beautiful work to release it and cleanse that, which we did. And then the body pain healed very quickly after that. And not only that, she hadn't had her interview yet for this new position. And then she went to the interview and she totally was shining really bright and brilliant in that interview as well. And lo and behold, she got the job. So, those intrusive energies can also limit success in life as well, in this example. Also, an example of soul retrieval, I had another client who was in an accident, a fender bender, not a major one, but enough damage to the car and having that jolt because it came out of nowhere. And she was quite stirred up from that, quite shocked. And after that accident, she started having sleep problems, anxiety started to develop. She had the phobia of like not wanting to be in a car or get into any kind of vehicle, even if it was a bus or a train. And she just felt like, you know, this wave of energy went over her. She was also a little bit dissociated, which is another symptom of soul loss, not in her body, not fully grounded. And she was very listless. So even if you were talking to her, you know, 5 minutes in, she'd be like, what'd you say? You know, she just couldn't pay attention and concentrate. So we did a beautiful soul retrieval for her as well. We cleansed the emotions that she was, you know, holding, the shock and the fright from that event, but then also brought back the soul essence, which actually got frozen in time at the scene of the accident. And we brought that soul essence back. And as soon as she had that soul essence back, the anxiety was gone. She was able to sleep. And then also she became really bright and radiant as her old self. And she was saying to me, you know, I just haven't been the same since that accident. And then she said to me after the session, I feel like my old self is back again. And that is a very common, you know, phrase that we will hear from people. I haven't been the same since, and then also having that back. I also worked with a fellow who had a heart attack. Heart attack just happened out of the blue, needed heart surgery, had bypass surgery, and this guy was a talented musician. But after having gone through that, just no desire to play his instrument at all. Just couldn't do it. And, you know, his friends were encouraging him, come, you know, come hang out, let's jam. Just wouldn't do it, and fell into a depression. And in that session, we did some beautiful extraction work to, you know, cleanse the sadness, the depression that he had, but also to heal from that event of the heart attack and the event of the surgery, and retrieved his soul part, which actually slipped into a spiritual realm. That's where it was found, having a rest and a reprieve, because that event of the heart attack and then having the surgery right after was just too much for him to deal with. That soul essence went into a spiritual realm to have a reprieve, a rest, to heal and gain energy. And then we brought that soul essence back, and he healed very quickly because he had a lot of discomfort in the chest, a lot of tightness and pain and things like that. But having that soul essence back, he began to heal and rejuvenate very quickly. And then he started playing music again, and before you know it, he started to play shows and performances after that as well. So it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, even one of the things that we had worked on, which was I had some physical pain in my hip and leg, and that he took care of it. It was like we did the work. I still felt the pain, you know, it wasn't like we did the work and then the pain was gone, but the pain resolved itself within a few days, and I had been living with it for weeks and weeks and weeks. So this was like, I mean, it's really profound. And it's like when you find, this is why I love sharing you with everyone, because I feel like when you find something that works and you find a genuine practitioner with doing work that produces a result, you want to share that with everyone. So I'm so proud to be able to share you with all of the Spell Squad and everyone that I talk to all the time. I'm telling people about you. So this is something that is, I think, going to be profoundly helpful to many people. You know, of course, many people from my world, but you help many, many other people, of course. But would you like to, are you ready to answer some questions? Because we've got a few questions and I want to be able to get to as many as possible. Do you want to start answering some questions?
Sure. I would like to also talk a little bit about ancestral healing too,
Oh,
because
yeah, of
I'm
course,
just
because
going
you
to
have a
say,
class coming up.
yeah, but I'm going to say just a few minutes, a couple minutes about it, because it's also a big part of shamanism too. In, you know, shamanic work, we can work on ancestral healing, because we can, you know, inherit the beautiful gifts and the blessings from our ancestors, skills, talents, and abilities, which is amazing, and then express it to our fullest potential. Sometimes we can also inherit energetic imprints and patterns that are unhealthy from our ancestors as well, especially if they suffered big challenges in their life, or also lived a life unfulfilled, and maybe they weren't able to do everything that they wanted to do. And we can inherit these patterns, these unhealthy ones, such as patterns of addiction. So maybe you have, you know, some client who has a problem with alcoholism, and then a parent had that, a grandparent had that, etc. Or a history of depression, or history of anxiety, or a history of heart disease, because it can also be physical illnesses, or a history of digestion problems. And that can limit us, our success. It could also limit us in relationships, in work, career, finances. So we can also do some beautiful healing work to release these unhealthy ancestral patterns and bring through the gifts that we inherit from our ancestors to help us to be strong and resilient, and not only survive in life, but to thrive. And that's something that is really important as well. And, you know, sometimes we don't always think about these family patterns. It's like we know we have family patterns, but sometimes, you know, we get stuck in them and we don't think about shifting out of them or healing them sometimes. And I would love to share just a couple of stories just to make this point a little bit clearer of how this healing can help us. So this is a session that I did for someone. And I had this client, and she was lovely, but her life wasn't really going anywhere. Like, she had big ideas of things that she would like to do and goals, but when she went to go take action on them, she would just go flat. Like, she would fizzle. And even, you know, her friends would be inviting her out, hey, let's, you know, go out. And she'd be like, oh, I'd rather just, you know, sit on the couch in my pajamas and watch Netflix and eat potato chips, you know? So she had this kind of lethargy that would set in. So, you know, finally she said to herself, okay, you know what, I gotta get out of this, you know, because this is a pattern that, you know, it's been going on for years. And her brother also had the same sort of thing, couldn't hold down a job, you know, would be lethargic. And she had another sister that had that too, and parent and grandparent, and so on. So she realized that this was a family pattern. So we decided to work on it together. And we traced that back to an ancestor that she had that in her ancestor's life, her ancestor had a lot of pain, physical pain and ailments due to an accident. And at that time, this is the olden days, at that time was prescribed laudanum, which is an opiate type of medicine, and was taking that and would essentially zone out from their life, like being on the couch, not being very engaged, you know, just being somewhere else, being on that type of medicine, that opiate type of drug. And lived a life unfulfilled and had a lot of goals that were not fulfilled. And at that point of their death and passing, that created a ripple effect across the family line, and for her it was affecting that. So when we cleared that imprint, it was very interesting. She had a transformation. She went shopping, she bought new clothes, she got her hair done, she changed her job to the job that she really wanted to have, not the one that she settled for, and she really became alive and animated. So it was, you know, an amazing shift for her in that way. So it can be very powerful healing to get out of those patterns.
It's so good. It's so good. You ready for some questions now?
Yes, I would love that very much. Yes.
Because I want to make sure everybody, you know, that has a question, as many as we can get to, because this is such a fascinating topic, and there are, I'm just diving into it, and I love everything that I'm learning from you and books that I'm reading and every piece of information I can get my hands on. So Nina has a question. When you're doing a healing practice, and she's asking about Reiki, but we can ask it about really about shamanic work. How many sessions is typical for releasing family trauma?
That's a really great question. Thank you for asking that. So everyone is very individual on how many sessions it can take. If I had to give a generalized average, I would say that people would really see a lot of good benefit having 3 to 4 sessions. Okay. Having said that, I've seen really good results even after 1 session. For some people, that might be a little bit more than 3 sessions, maybe 4 or 5, to shift something. Now, as a general guide, I will say if something was chronic, you know, the issue was chronic, maybe it would take more sessions to clear it. However, having said that, I've seen chronic things, you know, shift after 1 session as well. So it really depends. It depends if it's chronic. Also depends on how willing the person is to do the work to shift that. More willing, like this other lady I was talking about with the family pattern, like she lived this pattern her whole life, and then finally she was like fed up with it and said, okay, you know, I really want to work on it. You know, it shifted after 1 session, but we might have, you know, needed to do maybe 2 or 3 sessions to shift that. So it really just depends on the individual, and it depends on the type of issue and condition as well.
I think in my experience in working with you, I feel like it's almost like layers on an onion. We look at that surface issue or our most compelling issue or what's like right in our face, And as we do that work, we heal that, but then it reveals another layer underneath, and it may be a different related issue or different issue. And you just work on each one as we go into it. You know, there's something, I think it's not that the work hasn't been done, but we're looking at different facets or maybe different layers of that, because you're uncovering, you know, things, and you're working on that one thing. And now the sort of not so demanding issues, or not quite in your face issues, are coming up that can be worked on with this modality that can heal those issues. So that may be another aspect of it too, you know, with family trauma, right?
For sure, it is like that. I love that analogy that you gave of being that onion and peeling away the layers, for sure. And, you know, even in shamanism and holistic healing, it's like, you know, we don't look at just one issue. Everything is interrelated. So one issue can also be connected to others. So as we clear something, then it leads us somewhere else. And it is like peeling the layers of the onion that way to get down to the person's core, their true self, their true essence.
Yeah, the beautiful bright spirit within what I call the divine child, which is our true soul essence, which is so, you know, lovely to let that come shine and feel whole and feel complete. One of the things that you brought up that I find so compelling is that when I work with clients, often I'll have a client come forward and they'll be talking about, let's say, their partner, or they'll be talking about someone, and I'll get the message from the guides that the person in question has that, what you call is like this, in the shamanic lingo would be that the piece of the soul that is missing, but I call it like the hole in the heart, you know, like that there's a hole in the heart somewhere, and that they're trying to fill that hole up or get relief from that pain through drugs, alcohol, you know, whatever they're using, that they're trying to give some relief. They're doing the best that they know how with the resources that they have on hand, but it's never going to address the true issue, which is the issue of soul completeness or heart completeness or self-love, you know, which is that the one thing that will, you know, heal that. So this is the work that you do on behalf, so that they don't have to actually do, how do I feel this hole in my heart? Well, the shamanic practitioner will do the work for you, so that you don't have to. I mean, you do your work and support it, but I find it so, that's what I find so compelling about it, is that it's not like, oh my gosh, I've got to go, you know, now I've got to go to a monastery and be, you know, on a silent retreat for the next 15 years. No, the shamanic practitioner can take that and bring it back, so that you can have that new, fresh, shiny space where you can then not be so focused on the things that are trying to give you that sense of relief, which is lovely.
Exactly. Now, in shamanic cultures, when someone suffered soul loss, they would recognize it right away. So the shaman would see that, their family members, friends would see that. They would have a soul retrieval done in a few days after the event. So whether it was a heartache, a shock, a fright, an accident. But for us, you know, in our modern culture, we have these things happen, and then, you know, do we have a soul retrieval? Maybe some do, maybe some don't, and years go by, or decades, and then that's when all of those other things will set in, like the addiction, you know, to fill that hole in the heart that the person has,
Yeah.
or whatever the action or activity is going to be that's unhealthy.
Yeah, exactly. Or, you know, another very common one is to look for someone else to fix it for you, not in the sense of looking for a shamanic practitioner, but I'm going to find a love. My lover is going to fix me, and my lover is going to make you feel better. And the fact of the matter is, in the initial stage of love, when we have all those chemicals flowing in our brain and it's like so exciting, it can be drug-like. But when that goes away, you're left with that person, and that's when the relationship will fall apart, because it's based on, you need to fix me. Now my heart is back. You're not fixing me, so I'm going to look for it elsewhere, or I'm going to reject you or push you away, you know,
Yeah.
or chase after you because I think you're going to, you know, all those things.
So
you know,
that's a very interesting point you bring up, actually, because in relationships, often, you know, there'll be an exchange of soul parts between, you know, the people, the couple, because it's like, I'll give you a piece of me in hopes that you'll love me, you know, and vice versa. And what happens? It creates an even bigger hole in the heart, let's say. And then that is when you have more of those patterns, those unhealthy patterns showing up. So that is very common. And we see that a lot. Yes.
Yeah, but the work is to, I always say that the work is to have the love of yourself and to realize your own divinity and your own, that you are the divine child. And when you realize that, then you don't look for someone else to complete you. The whole Tom Cruise, you complete me thing. I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. You have to be completing yourself first. Because if you're looking for someone to complete you, they're always going to let you down in some way because they can't. They can't. It's not possible for another person to complete you. All right, we have another question I want to get to. This is a really, really beautiful one. Marcella asks, can soul loss cause digestive issues? Now, you are talking, I guess we can say, how are digestive issues or health issues addressed in the shamanic practice? I think we talked on it, but in particular that one.
Well, digestion issues. Okay, so from a shamanic point of view, the shaman would present that to the helping spirits. Oh, I have, this client, she's having digestion issues, to see then what is out of balance. And that could actually be a variety of different things. There could be an intrusive energy there. Maybe there is resentment that's festering. I'm just saying an example. Let's say there's resentment that's festering there that is causing that. So that could be one option. Another option is there could be soul loss. If there's enough soul loss, because that vital essence is missing, illness could set in. So maybe there's a weakness in the digestive system that is creating some kind of problem there. It could be ancestral. I also saw an ancestral pattern where I will actually speak this on behalf of my own family. This is a personal story here. One of my great-grandmothers ate poisonous mushrooms by accident, living on the farm. Farm ladies were like, oh, we pick mushrooms and we cook them and we eat them. So she ate it and got sick. Digestion problems, diarrhea, vomiting, you can imagine. And then later on, that manifested as digestion issues for my grandmother. That manifested digestion issues for myself. And when we finally cleared that pattern, when I learned how to do this work, I thought, oh, this is curious, let's try it out, and then release that, and then the digestion issues healed. So this is why we do a shamanic diagnostic, to find out what is out of balance and what is leading to that, because it could be any one of those, or sometimes there could be a combination.
Yeah, and I think each session that you do, you go into the other world and you find out the information, and it can be more than one thing that's leading to that. Katie says, just a comment, not a question, you are speaking to my soul, which is so lovely. I love that. See, we already have someone. and we had another one from Leia said, Christa is amazing. So you've got some fans out there already. Sevda says, wow, what an awesome topic. I believe in this stuff too. And I want egg soul. I don't think egg soul is probably a typo there, but it's so, so beautiful. Jill saying it's so awesome. Connie saying this is awesome. Marcella says you're hired. She's the one with the stomach digestion issues. And okay, so Karen asked a question, which brings up another question. I think there's a question that actually leads to another question. So Karen asked, do you know what Native American tribes do shamanism? Which brings up the whole thing that I know you're going to say right now, which is about where does shamanism come from?
So shamanic practices, we can see all across the world, many cultures practicing similar shamanic healing techniques. So the word shaman comes from the Siberian word, which means one who sees in the dark, one who's able to travel into the spiritual realms to access the compassionate helping spirits on behalf of humanity and to effect healing. But what is really interesting and what I find super fascinating is when we look at all of these different cultures from around the world, we see the healing practices for medicine people in these cultures that are the same. Even though they didn't have contact with each other, they have very similar healing methods of extraction and working in different ways, but the ceremonies that they do are culture specific. But the healing techniques are very similar. I find that very fascinating indeed. So even for myself, I have the Slavic folk healing. I've also studied European shamanism, which there is shamanism, medicine practices there. but also around the world. We can see that in South America, North America, we can see that in Africa, we can see that in Asia. So the ceremonies are culture specific, but the underlying healing techniques are very similar of how the shamans work. So if they're doing extraction, they might work with crystals to extract. In Slavic, we work with sometimes eggs to extract. Other ones will work with like these almost look like poultice things that they'll make and place them on the body, or work with fruits, lemons, limes, or eggs, and roll them across the body to extract that. And we see that actually in several different cultures with working with eggs, not just in Slavic culture. That's very interesting.
Yeah, one of the things in curanderismo, I always say it a little off, curanderismo is, which is the Mexican healing practice. We see the egg rolling and that using the egg. And I, being in Los Angeles, was more exposed to Mexican culture than I was to Ukrainian culture. There's a Ukrainian cultural center here, but it's not like, you know, we are very, very influenced in Los Angeles with Mexican culture because we're so close. And when I first heard about cleansings with eggs through that. And then when I saw movies and images and information about Ukrainians using eggs, it's slightly different. It's not exactly the same, but the principle is the same, that we're using an egg to extract any negativity out of the body. And when I read about this, saw videos of people doing this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So either, my theory is that either this is something that sprang up sort of like the 100th monkey, you know, that the people, we've talked about that these things spontaneously come up, or this practice is so ancient and old, it came across the Bering Strait when the people from Siberia moved over to North America. It is that old. So it's either very old and comes from that one origin point, or we're seeing it just spontaneously, you know, that the shamans themselves are gaining the wisdom from being in the other world, and then everybody everywhere is understanding this because they're all retrieving from that same other world, you know. Very fascinating.
Yes, indeed.
So we can say, so to answer Karen's question, every Native American tribe has some version of shamanism. Every South American tribe has some version of shamanism. Cultures where, if you look at the, you know, that they've been, let's say European cultures where there's been a lot of quote unquote progress and leaving behind the old ways, we can still find archaeological evidence of these practices. And what I'm finding is like you can find little threads of it that have still carried on in some way. Even with, in our example of Slavic culture and in Ukrainian culture, even with the oppression of the Soviet Union, even with Christianity coming in, even with the gods Perun and all those gods, we go back further to the oldest practices. We can find little threads of that have made their way up into the present day, and we just have to follow those threads back down again, and we can find them. Perfect example being pisanki, which are the decorated Easter eggs, right? They're called Easter eggs. They're for Easter. No, my children. These eggs go back before there was even Christianity in Slavic culture. So all of these practices, we can find them if we dig down, but we sometimes have to dig, you know, to find them, for sure. So another question. Casey wants to know, do you need to know the exact issue going on if you're going into a shamanic session, a healing session? Do you have to know what the issue is, or can you just go in with, let's see what's going on?
Either way, yes. So we can know what the issue is ahead of time. If there's an issue that someone really wants to work on and focus on that, yes, we can do it that way. Or we can also work the other way where we don't know the issue and we go to the helping spirits and say, okay, this person is in need of healing. Show us, you know, thank you for showing us what we need to bring back into balance.
So good. So beautiful. Eva has a question, or Eva. How about cancer? How is cancer dealt with in shamanic practice?
Again, that could be a variety of different ways. So there's not one set way of, you know, this causes this. So when we look at an illness, you know, such as cancer or tumor or whatever, we look at the underlying what is out of balance there that is leading to this condition. That could be an inherited ancestral pattern. That's an option. Could be due to an intrusive energy. That could also be due to soul loss to a certain extent, where the immune system isn't functioning to take care of the unhealthy cells that start to develop in the body, and they start to morph and then create a tumor. Or something like that. So we're always looking at what is the underlying balance. And that is the beauty of shamanism, because it gets to go to the root of that imbalance, correct it, and restore balance to allow the body to heal, to come back into balance, and to initiate the body's natural ability to heal and strengthen that to allow for the conditions for healing to occur.
Fabulous. I love that. And I think that it's not, your answers have always been so brilliant. It's not one size fits all. There's not a protocol. It's going in and finding what the situation is that has led to this symptom.
Exactly. Because let's say we have 10 people with migraine headaches. The reasons behind why that is manifesting and what is out of balance there that is leading to that is going to be different for each one of those 10 people. So we can't say it's just one thing and that's going to work for everyone. We say, okay, what is it for you? What is out of balance for you? And what is out of balance for you? And work at that level to shift it.
So beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question from Jill, which actually leads me to a question. So I get to sneak my questions in, piggybacking on someone else's question. Jill asked the question, who is your most difficult client? I don't know that you want to talk about your clients or difficult clients, but it brings up the question for me, which is, can someone get a shamanic healing if they don't believe in it?
Yes, they can. Now, if they don't believe, that could hinder things. And I say could because not necessarily. I'm just thinking about this one client I worked with. He had a pain that he had for 30 years. And he was like, I'm skeptical about this, but you know, what the heck? I'm going to try it because I don't know. But you know, he went in and he told me right off the bat, I'm skeptical. I don't know, but we'll see. And I'm like, okay, we'll see. I can work with that. So we did this beautiful healing. We did an extraction for him. And then it was so funny because that night he went home and it was bothering him. And it actually, the pain, where he had the pain in the body, the muscles around started fluttering like this. And he thought, what's happening there? Like, this is, you know, weird. And then he said, you know, in the night he was cursing me because he's like, this little spasm was happening, but it was actually a good thing. And then when he fell asleep, he woke up in the morning. And then he got out of bed and he had so much pain that it would take him a long time to get out of bed. He got out of bed, he went to have a shower, he was eating his breakfast, brushing his teeth, putting on his clothes, and then he realized, this is the first morning I've been pain-free in 30 years. And then he came back to me the next day. And he said, oh my gosh, Christa, I have to tell you what happened. And he said it was so weird to have his muscles fluttering like that. He's like, well, what is that? And I said, well, you know, that was the energy leaving and it was creating just a momentary, you know, sensation as everything was recalibrating again. And he said, it's been fantastic. I have no pain. We met around 5 p.m. the next day. And he said the whole day, no pain. And then he would send me these email updates. 1 week later, still no pain. 2 weeks later, still no pain. And it healed. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. I just think that, you know, if it's interesting because the belief will certainly support, you know, if someone has a trust or faith, it's gonna, I think they're gonna be more open. I mean, certainly he wasn't so skeptical that he didn't do it. If you're so skeptical that but you know, I think about, well, what if someone said, let's say, brought someone to you virtually, or, you know, nowadays virtually, and said, oh, I want you to work on my kid, for example, or I want you to work on my husband. He doesn't believe in this, but I know it works and I want you to work on it. You could still find a way to bring that healing, and you might turn that skeptic into a believer. It's always fabulous when that happens, isn't it?
Yes, and I will say this because it's interesting. I had a wife, you know, a woman who came saw me and, you know, wanted her husband because according to her, her husband is the problem, causing all the issues for her. So she said, go for the session. So he came for the session, but he was like this, you know? And so I had to have a frank conversation. I said, okay, do you want this session and do you really want to be here? I know your wife recommended it, but I said, do you really want to be here? And he said, no, not really. And I said, okay, how about we wait? How about we just leave the session for today, and how about we wait? And whenever you feel ready, then let's do the work. 1 year later goes by, 1 year. Then he came back after a year and he said, okay, I realized, yes, there are some things that I would like to work on. Now let's do the session. And then it was brilliant. And he had a lot of beautiful healing results, but he wasn't ready at that time. And I want to honor that. If someone isn't ready in that kind of situation, then let's do the work when you are ready.
Yeah, I think a hard resistance isn't going to help matters, you know, if someone is so resistant. But it, like your guy with the back pain and the hip pain, he was skeptical, but he still was like, "Oh, let's give it a try. I've tried everything else." So there was a little crack in the door, right?
Exactly. And that ray of light is shining through, and that's what I'll focus on.
Yeah. All right. So Sevda has a question. Could someone take some of your soul? Could someone take some of your soul? Meaning like maybe like I think of like energy vampires, you know, what the popular parlance is. And if so, do you know how to retrieve it back? Of course, you would know that part. And have you ever heard of this? So have you ever heard of an actual person going like, oh, I want some energy from that person, or I want some of what they've got, so I'm going to pull it away from them?
Yes, yes, that happens. We call that in shamanic terms soul theft. And that can happen. And it can happen on an unconscious level. The person doesn't really realize that they're taking that. But that can also happen on a conscious level where people do want that. So in the cases of jealousy, if someone is envious, okay, let's say you've got someone who has a good job, you know, making decent money, has a nice place to live, and somebody wants that, they could essentially try to hook into that energy and take it. Or let's say someone is really charismatic, makes lots of friends, and someone looks at that person and says, I wish I was like that. I want to be like that. And then they try to take some of that essence so they can become like that person to have what they have. So that can happen, yes. So that we can see sometimes is very common. And also too, if we're dealing with people who are aggressive, hostile, dominating types, then sometimes they will hook into someone's soul essence to try to keep them small or limit their empowerment, okay, so that the person is not shining in their life, okay, to try to keep them small or as a way to control them. And we see that in abusive types of relationships, okay? So we can definitely do beautiful soul retrieval work to restore that lost soul essence and bring that back and restore it to the person.
I almost get the feeling that it can also be talking back, or giving a call back to that person who has their own hole in their heart or their own missing soul piece. Maybe like instead of mistakenly going to find it in alcohol, drugs, sex, love, addictions, actually be pulling that energy from another person, even knowingly or unknowingly, trying to get what they have because they think it's going to give them some relief. And it may give temporary relief, but it only gives temporary relief. It doesn't resolve the issue. It's like, I always think of it's like, taking an aspirin when you have a brain tumor, they give relief to the pain, but it's not solving the deeper problem that needs to be that. So I think those things can be intentional sometimes, and I think they can also be very unintentional. Yeah. It may be someone who feels themselves little in some way and either becomes needy or becomes a bully because they themselves, a bully is not a bully because they feel empowered, they feel disempowered, which is why they're bullying others. So that same thing is like, if you don't feel good enough, you could pull somebody else's energy because you want to give some relief and feel some better. Yes. It almost reminds me of like hangers on, like a celebrity who has an entourage of people that are like, oh, I want some of that energy of that celebrity and I want some of that, and they're trying to pull it. Now they may or may not do it, but there's a kind of hanger-on quality, leech kind of quality about it. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's true. Yeah. And yes, and usually if someone has soul loss themselves, in some cases like the bully, they're going to want to take some soul essence from another to try to feel good. And then also there are the hangers on that can leech that soul essence because they want it. So yes, that can happen. We see that a lot, and we have beautiful ways where we can get that soul essence back.
Oh my gosh. Well, Shada has a question. that is going to lead us into something else, which is, Shada says, this is speaking to my spirit as well, and I want to schedule a session. So you've got classes, you've got sessions that people can do. How do people, well, I'm going to put the link for how to get a hold of Christa at the bottom there, but tell a little bit about what you have coming up and the things that you offer and all of that. So.
All right, thank you so much. So yes, we can do this work at a distance, and to book a session, you can book that through my website on the Book Now button. And I work through Zoom. So we are on video with each other that I can see you, and we can do the session virtually. So I'm available for sessions that way on Zoom for healing. And then also I teach shamanic classes and crystal healing classes online as well. They are on Zoom and they're live and interactive. I don't do pre-recorded stuff because I love meeting people and I love being with people. And then I teach in small groups so that we have lots of good time to meet each other, to work with each other, to do the healing techniques. And I'm there to help you and to mentor you through that process. So I keep the class sizes small so that we can do that, and live and interactive, so we're all together as a beautiful group and doing this work together.
Yeah, Leah, who's here in the room, and I were both in your class together, and it was amazing. And I am a teacher. I've been teaching since I was in my 20s. Have been teaching, and you know, you definitely see some different quality of teachers. You see some that just like are reading off a paper, and that, oh boy, that doesn't work for me. isn't my learning modality. But I have to say that your classes are super interactive. You give a demonstration, or you show and you teach, and then you give the students a chance to practice with one another. It's the glory of this beautiful system that we have with Zoom, that people can do breakout rooms. And it was one of the things, you know, for years and years, people were asking. I was doing live tarot classes, and I said, oh, I want to do classes online, but I was thinking, should I record? And I go, no, nobody's going to learn from a recording. You have to practice doing tarot. It's the same thing with shamanic practice. You have to practice doing it with someone to truly understand it. And in your classes, you give these great little mini lectures. Then everybody has a little practice session with each other, and you really do integrate. It's the way I learn the best from that. I learn less so from watching a video. So your classes are just profoundly amazing, and has sparked in me this great love of shamanic work, you know, not only receiving it, but actually wanting to learn more about, you know, being a practitioner. So this is a great introduction. And I think you have one coming up in August, right?
Yes, Shamanic Journeying 2-day class, which is an immersion class, a Saturday and Sunday all day from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time. And that class is coming up in August, and that class is on August 8th and 9th. So we have that one. And then there is a Shamanic Ancestral Healing class booked for September. So again, that's a 2-day class, but taught on a Saturday, a week apart, because you have a week of homework in between to do. And that one is in September. So that will be September 19th and 26th. So that's something to look forward to, but you need to have the Shamanic Journey class first, because you need to have some good journey skills to go in to do that class. And then also I do run monthly online crystal healing classes, 90-minute classes that are on one specific topic. So we have coming up on August 1st, boosting confidence, motivation with carnelian. And this is learning self-healing techniques, working with the carnelian to boost that. So to get your mojo going and your motivation, I know we're getting pandemic fatigue, a lot of us, okay, myself included, feeling that a little bit. So carnelian is a nice stone to work with that. So every month is a different topic for that.
And I'm going to be in that ancestral workshop. I have to sign up. I haven't done it yet, but I will be signing up for that ancestral workshop. So if you want to join me, go ahead and take that weekend introduction, and then you'll be able to join in. I've also participated in your monthly shamanic journeying session, which is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, it was so beautiful. The last one was lovely. And so, you know, you'll see, if you guys in the room, you know, you'll see me in you won't see me in the introduction because I've already done that one, but you'll see me in these other things if you do the introduction, because I'll be there. And I'm just loving learning with Christa. So I am so thankful that you took the time on your wedding anniversary, mind you, right? It's your anniversary today?
No, not today.
Oh,
So
oh,
yeah,
okay,
but
we're
coming
good.
up, coming up soon.
Okay. All right. So I thought this was your actual anniversary. All right. So you took a time out of your Sunday, no matter
Yeah.
what, you took time out of your Sunday to come here and join and share with everyone. This was so lovely to have you and to share this beautiful wisdom, this information about this very, very powerful, very ancient practice that really is, I think it's such healing. Like I always say one of my mottos is there can't be too much beauty in the world, right? There cannot be too many people doing art, music, dance, doing beautiful things in the world, whatever, gardening, whatever it is, right? And I do feel like there can't be too many healers in this world either, because the more we learn, the more we can help ourselves, our loved ones, even go on further than that. But I feel like, ourselves, healing just ourselves through this practice, it can be profoundly impactful. It's like that ripple effect. If you yourself are healed and whole, then you're going to have no matter what you do, you could be an accountant, it doesn't matter, but your ripple effect is going to affect many, many, many others. So it is such a beautiful, beautiful thing that I am so glad that we got to share with the Spell Squad. We got to share you with the Spell Squad. I hope one day in a few months from now, we can have you back on again and we can talk about crystals, because there's so much. I mean, Christa is a woman she's a Renaissance spiritual person. She has a lot of talent. So we might have you back on again several months from now, 6 months from now, whatever it is, and have you talk about something completely different. We'll touch on shamanism, but we'll talk about one of your other practices that you are so adept at. So
Oh, I would love that very much. Thank you so much. I have really enjoyed our time here together with you, Madame Pamita, and with all of you tuning in and anyone watching this after. It's been a real joy to spend this very precious and sacred time with all of you.
Oh my gosh. Well, if they want to find out about your upcoming classes, whether they're seeing this later on past this is going to live on YouTube. So it could be, a year from now that someone sees this, but if they see that they can check it out at ChristaLynn.com. That's CHRISTA. Oh, sorry, .ca. Sorry.
.ca, Canada.
Go Canada. They can check it out at ChristaLynn.ca and find you and be able to see when your next classes are coming up. And of course, book a session with you anytime that is ongoing. So I recommend having a session with Christa, and you'll learn so much just from having that session. It will teach you so much, and you'll get I think that you'll all get the bug just like I have it's like potato chips. You can't have just one. Thank you so much again. Thank you all to you, the Spell Squad members who are here and the new people who are here. It's so wonderful to have you. Next week, I've got to do a little announcement. Next week, we are having a very, very, very unusual guest. Not a spiritual practitioner, but a spiritual person who is a kind of a big deal celebrity. We met last October, and I have been bothering her to come on the show a little bit, not really bothering, but Delta Work from RuPaul's Drag Race. If you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, Delta Work was one of the contestants in season 3. Amazing personality, amazing, open-hearted, very loving, very spiritual. She's going to come on in full regalia. I said, you can come on. You don't have to dress up if you don't want to. She says, no, I'm going to come fully decked out as Delta Work on the show next week. So we'll probably talk about drag and spirituality. It's going to be a wild, fun show. So I hope you'll join us next week. That'll be a fun one. Thank you again, Christa. And I'm going to see you later on this week for a shamanic session. So I'll see you in a few days. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to you, and thank you to everyone. I have enjoyed our time here together. So may you all be well, and lots of blessings and light and love to all of you.
Great. We'll see you soon. I'll see you later on this week, Christa. All right,
good.
everyone.
I'll
see you guys next Sunday. We'll see you next Sunday with Delta Work. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.